So the five ties have been drawn to decide which five winners will qualify for the World Cup from Africa. Alongside Ed Dove, and we're going to take a look at each tie individually in a second, Ed, but who's going to be happiest and who's going to think, oh, that's not the draw that we wanted?
Well, I think Mali can be the happiest of all the teams, because to me, Tunisia looked like the weakest team in Pot A. They've struggled at the Africa Cup of Nations. And so I think Mali, who are the only team of the 10 who have never reached the World Cup before, for them to have drawn Tunisia, that is a massive opportunity for them to make it to the World Cup for the first time ever. I think Cameroon getting Algeria, I think even though Algeria have had a disastrous time at the Nations Cup, I think they are going to be a wounded animal. They're going to be desperate to prove a point. And I think Cameroon will be thinking they could have done a lot better than land upon the reigning African champions.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the ties. In fact, we'll go through all of the ties individually. First of all, two pots, pot one and pot two. Senegal, Algeria, Nigeria, Morocco and Tunisia in one pot, and Egypt, Ghana, Cameroon, Congo and Mali in the other. The tie that stands out, it's the headline maker, isn't it? One of Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane will not be playing at the World Cup because Egypt has drawn Senegal. Egypt 45th in the world, Senegal 20th in the world. Senegal favourites for you?
Yes, definitely. Heading into it, yes. And in terms of what we've seen at the Nations Cup over these last 2 weeks in Cameroon, both of these teams, neither of them have really impressed. But I would say that Senegal still have another gear to go. They still have more attacking options going forward. And so I would give them the edge. What I would say is that this is a real shame for me. It's a shame for African football that of the two standout African players in the world today, you could maybe say two of the top three with Mahrez. One of them is not going to be at the World Cup. So for me, it's a disappointment. But obviously, we're going to have a mouth-watering doubleheader between these two teams in March. And imagine the tension in that Anfield dressing room.
And the build-up to that, indeed. Speaking of tension, in Ghana, they'll be worried. In Nigeria, they'll be worried because they've drawn each other. What about that for a tie?
Yeah, these two, there's no love lost between these two West African heavyweights. Both of them would consider themselves to be the top dog in the region. Certainly Ghana got to the World Cup quarterfinal in 2010, but Nigeria have had the three Nations Cups and are the bigger team, the bigger nation in the region. That is going to be feisty. It's going to be fiery. Based on what we've seen at the Nations Cup, there's not going to be really that much of a matchup between them. Nigeria won all their three group games. Ghana have bombed and gone home after taking just 1 point from their matches. So Nigeria, overwhelming favourites, but Ghana do have some talent in that team as well.
Those of us of a certain vintage will remember corner flag dances and 40-something-year-old players by the name of Roger Milla doing so well and making headlines for Cameroon. They're now 50th in the world, and we spoke about that briefly at the start against an Algerian side that contains the likes of Riyad Mahrez but didn't have the best African Cup of Nations. What chance of an upset here?
Well, I wouldn't say this one will be an upset either way. I think these are actually two fairly equally matched teams. You're right. Over the last 2 weeks, Algeria have had a disastrous time. Their 35-game undefeated streak came to an end. They weren't able to score against lowly Sierra Leone, and then they were pumped by Ivory Coast and dumped out of the tournament. They are going to have a point to prove. I worry for Algeria what kind of impact this devastating Nations Cup will leave in that group. Will there be a hangover after this tournament? Cameroon defeated Ivory Coast in their final group game to reach the World Cup playoffs. And I really think that match, that victory, will be the trigger that they need to go the distance in the World Cup. And they're showing it by having a really good Nations Cup so far as well.
I suppose any of the teams in pot one would have looked at the five nations in pot two and seen that 97th in the world, the lowest ranked side to qualify for round three is the Democratic Republic of Congo. What chance do they have against Morocco?
Well, they're outsiders. Obviously, the Congo as well, they're the only team of the 10 who haven't made it to the Nations Cup. So that gives you a bit of an idea as to their current standing in the African pecking order. They've obviously not been to the World Cup since 1974. However, what they have in their favour is Lubumbashi, which is where they play their home games, the Stade des Martyrs. And that really is a furious atmosphere. It'll be very tense. It's not an easy place for any team to go to. And Morocco have to go there first to get a result before then going back to North Africa. Morocco are favourites, but Congo can certainly hurt them, and home support could be a big factor as well.
Another North African side to end things, Tunisia. We've seen them at the World Cup before. How big a task do they have against Mali, who quietly fancy this one? You said right at the start, this isn't a bad draw for Mali, is it?
Yeah, and especially if you remember last week, these two teams actually met in the group stage of the Nations Cup. That match was massively overshadowed by the refereeing controversy. Poor Gianni Sikazwe ending the game twice before the 90 minutes were up. But what was a little bit lost in the shuffle there was that Mali actually won that game 1-0, were the better team, and actually topped the group with Tunisia in third. So Mali, even though they were in Pot B, even though they're the only team who have never made the World Cup of the 10, I think this could be where we see an upset. I could see Mali advancing, which would be a shame because it would be good to see the North African teams. I imagine those North African teams in Qatar would have a really strong support, as we saw in the Arab Cup. So it would be a shame, but great for Mali if they indeed do advance.
Okay, Ed, I'm going to end by putting you on a platform that come the end of March, you'll look back and you'll say to everyone, look, I got everything right. Or come the end of March, you'll be like, no, I didn't record anything for ESPN FC with my tips. I need a winner from each tie. Let's start. Egypt, Senegal.
Senegal.
Ghana, Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Cameroon against Algeria.
The toughest one of the lot. I'm going to go Algeria because I'm going to back them to bounce back.
Okay. Congo against Morocco.
Morocco.
And Mali against Tunisia.
Also tough, but I'm going to go with Mali.
That's a draw for round 3. My thanks to Ed Dove, and full coverage and previews of all the 5 two-legged ties on the ESPN FC platforms, which 5 nations will be representing Africa at Qatar later this year at the World Cup.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN Plus.